The invitation had come casually, tucked inside a text message that Leo had almost missed amidst the clutter of his work emails. Hey man, Mom's doing the big cleanup at the estate this weekend. Could use an extra pair of hands. Plus, she makes that lasagna you like. You in? Some Leo stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the glass. It had been 3 years since he had last been to the Hawthorne estate. 3 years since graduation, since life had fractured them into different orbits, Sam into corporate law in the city, and Leo into architecture, mostly working on commercial renovations downtown. But the Hawthorne place, that was sacred ground. It was where they had spent every summer of their 20s, drinking cheap beer on the wraparound porch, talking about conquering the world. And it was where Elena Hawthorne lived. Leo typed back before he could overthink it. Wouldn't miss it. See you Saturday. He told himself it was about the friendship. It was about the lasagna. It was about helping an old friend's family. But as he packed his bag on Friday night, throwing in a change of clothes in his sketchbook, he felt a familiar low hum of anxiety in his chest. It wasn't anxiety about work or about Sam. It was about her. Elena Hawthorne was 52 years old. She was elegant in a way that seemed effortless, like water flowing over stone. She had silver streaking through her dark hair now, which she wore in a loose bun that somehow looked more sophisticated than any up-till Leo had seen on models and magazines. She was Sam's mother, yes, but she was also a woman who had captivated Leo's imagination since he was 22 years old. Back then, it had been a crush, a forbidden, silly, youthful infatuation that he had buried under layers of respect and friendship. He had dated girls his own age. He had moved on, or so he thought. The drive to Willow Creek took 2 hours. As Leo's car turned onto the gravel driveway, the house came into view. It was a sprawling Victorian colonial, painted a soft sage green with white trim, surrounded by oak trees that whispered in the wind. The lawn was overgrown. The gutters looked sagging. It seemed the maintenance had slipped since Mr. Hawthorne passed away 5 years prior. Leo parked behind Sam's SUV. He took a deep breath, checking his reflection in the rearview mirror. He looked tired. The dark circles under his eyes were prominent, his jaw tight. He smoothed his hair, grabbed his bag, and stepped out into the humid summer air. The front door opened before he could knock. Sam stood there, wearing a stained t-shirt and jeans, holding a hammer. He grinned, looking relieved. Leo, you're a lifesaver. I swear, this place is trying to kill me. Leo laughed, clapping Sam on the shoulder. Hey, man. Good to see you. What's the damage? Roof leak in the west wing, gutters are clogged, and Mom is trying to reorganize the entire library by herself. She's stubborn as a mule, you know her? I know, Leo said, the words catching slightly in his throat. Come on in. She's in the kitchen. Leo walked into the foyer. The smell hit him, first old paper, lemon polish, and the faint, lingering scent of lavender and vanilla that he associated exclusively with Elena. It was a scent that triggered a visceral memory of being hugged by her after his own parents' divorce when he was in college. A scent of safety, a scent of home. They walked into the kitchen. It was large, with farmhouse sinks and granite counters. And there she was. Elena was standing by the island, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She wore a simple white linen shirt tucked into denim shorts, her feet bare. She looked up, and her eyes hazel, flecked with gold, locked onto Leo's. For a second, the world seemed to tilt. The noise of the house, the ticking of the clock, the hum of the refrigerator, it all faded into a dull roar. Leo felt his heart hammer against his ribs, a sudden, violent rhythm that he hoped wasn't visible on his neck. Leo, she said. Her voice was lower than he remembered, rich and warm like cello music. She smiled, and the lines around her eyes deepened, making her look even more beautiful. You came. Wouldn't miss the lasagna, Leo said, trying for humor, but his voice came out rougher than intended. Elena walked around the island. She didn't hug him immediately. She stopped a foot away, looking him up and down, assessing him. You look tired, Leo. Are you eating enough? Sleeping? Work has been demanding, he said. Well, you're here now. No work. Just rest and heavy lifting. She finally stepped in and hugged him. It was a mistake. Or maybe it was fate. When her arms went around him, Leo felt a shockwave travel through his nervous system. She smelled exactly the same, but warmer. Her body was soft against his, firm where it needed to be. He held her for a second longer than polite society dictated, and he felt her pause too, just for a fraction of a second, before she pulled away. Sam told me you're staying in the blue room, she said, stepping back, her cheeks slightly flushed. I changed the sheets this morning. Thanks, Elena, really. Thanks for having me. Don't be silly. You're family. Family. The word stung, but also comforted. It was the boundary line. It was the wall he wasn't supposed to cross. If you like this story, please take a second and subscribe. This will motivate us to bring more stories for you. Dinner was a lively affair. They ate on the back porch as the sun began to dip below the tree line, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. The lasagna was, as promised, incredible. They talked about Sam's job, about the neighbors, about the leaky roof. Elena poured wine, her movements graceful. She listened more than she spoke, but when she did speak, both men leaned in. There was a gravity to her presence. Leo found himself watching her hands as she held her wine glass, the way her thumb stroked the stem. He caught himself and looked away, focusing on his plate. So, Sam said, wiping his mouth with a napkin, I got a call from the office today. There's a merger issue. I have to go into the city tomorrow morning. Probably won't be back until Monday. Leo froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. Tomorrow? But the roof. I know, Sam said, looking apologetic. I'm sorry, man. I wouldn't leave you hanging, but this is huge. But you're here. You can handle the gutters, right? And Mom has the contractor coming Tuesday for the roof. I'll be fine, Elena said smoothly, though Leo noticed her grip on her glass tighten slightly. Leo and I can manage the cleanup. Don't worry about work, Samuel. Go handle your business. Sam looked relieved. You're the best, Mom, Leo. You're a saint. I owe you both. After dinner, Sam retired early to pack. Leo offered to help with the dishes, but Elena insisted. You're a guest, she said, taking the plate from his hand. Their fingers brushed. The contact was electric, sharp and sudden. Leo pulled his hand back as if burned. Elena didn't flinch, but her eyes lingered on his face. Go sit on the porch. I'll bring out coffee. Leo walked out into the cooling night. The air was thick, heavy with the promise of rain. Cicadas chirped in the tall grass. He sat on the swing bench, watching the fireflies blink in the distance. He heard the screen door creak open behind him. He didn't turn around immediately. He heard the clink of ceramic on wood, then the scent of vanilla drifted to him again. Black, 2 sugars, Elena said, handing him a mug. She sat down next to him, not on the other end of his swing, but close. Their thighs were almost touching. You remembered, Leo said, taking the mug. The heat seeped into his palms. I remember a lot of things, Leo. The way she said his name. It wasn't the way a mother friend says a son's friend's name. It was intimate, possessive. Leo took a sip of the coffee to hide the tremor in his hands. Sam seems stressed. He works too hard. He takes after his father, always chasing the next thing, never looking at what's right in front of him. She turned to look at him. In the dim porch light, her eyes were dark pools. What about you, Leo? Are you chasing something? I'm trying to build something, he said quietly. Stability, a career, and love? The question hung in the air, heavy and direct. Leo looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the faint crow's feet, the slight slackness in the skin of her neck that spoke of age, but also of life lived fully. He saw the intelligence in her gaze, the loneliness that she hid behind her hostess persona. I haven't found the right person, Leo lied. No. Elena swirled her coffee. You're 28 now. You're a handsome man, successful. I find that hard to believe. Maybe I have high standards, Leo said. The boldness surprised him. Elena smiled, a slow curving of lips that made Leo's breath hitch. Maybe you do. A rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. The wind picked up, rustling the oak leaves violently. Storm's coming, Elena said, standing up. We should bring the cushions inside. They worked quickly together, stacking the plush outdoor cushions and carrying them into the living room. The first drops of rain began to fall, fat and heavy, splattering against the windows. The power might go out, Elena said, looking at the flickering lights. The grid out here is old. As if on cue, the lights buzzed and died. The house plunged into darkness, save for the flashes of lightning that illuminated the rooms in stark white bursts. Great, Elena sighed. Candles are in the kitchen drawer. The second one. Leo knew the house well enough. He navigated the dark hallway by memory, finding the drawer. He struck a match and lit 3 thick pillar candles. Placing them on the coffee table in the living room, the flickering light cast dancing shadows on the walls. Elena sat on the sofa, pulling a throw blanket over her legs. She looked vulnerable in the candlelight, stripped of the daytime matriarch armor. Come sit, she said, patting the space beside her. Leo sat. The storm outside intensified, rain lashing against the glass. The wind howled like a living thing. Inside, the silence was thick, filled only by the crackle of the match and the storm. You know, Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. When Sam brought you home all those years ago, you were so shy. You wouldn't look me in the eye. I was intimidated, Leo admitted. By me? She laughed softly. I was just a mom in sweatpants, Leo. You were never just anything, Leo said. The words slipped out before he could censor them. Elena went still. She turned her head to look at him. The candlelight reflected in her hazel eyes, making them glow. The air between them changed. It grew heavier, charged with static. Leo, she said warningly, but there was no heat in it. Only curiosity. I'm sorry, he said, looking down at his hands. I shouldn't have said that. Why not? Because you're Sam's mother, and you were Sam's best friend. She shifted, turning her body fully toward him. Her knee brushed his. We are both adults, Leo. Sam is 28. I am 52. We are not children. We don't need to live by rules that don't apply to us. It's complicated, Leo said, his voice rough. Love is always complicated. Life is complicated. She reached out, her hand hovering near his face. But silence. Silence is easy, and I'm so tired of easy. Her fingers touched his cheek. Her skin was warm, slightly rough from gardening. Leo leaned into her touch instinctively, closing his eyes. It was a surrender, an admission of guilt. Elena, he breathed. Tell me to stop, she whispered. Tell me to go to my room, Leo. Tell me this is wrong, and I will never speak of it again. Leo opened his eyes. He looked at her lips, then back to her eyes. He thought about Sam. He thought about the friendship, the history, the potential fallout. It would be a disaster. It would be messy. It could ruin everything. But then he thought about the last 3 years. The empty apartments. The hollow dates. The feeling that a piece of him was always waiting for something he couldn't name. He couldn't tell her to stop. "I can't," Leo said. Elena didn't hesitate. She closed the distance between them. The kiss was not tentative. It was not a shy exploration. It was passionate, hungry, and desperate. It was as if a dam had broken, releasing years of suppressed water. Leo's hand went to the back of her neck, tangling in her hair, pulling her closer. Elena made a sound low in her throat, a moan of relief, and her hands gripped his shirt, pulling him down onto the cushions with her. The candles flickered wildly as the wind battered the house, but neither of them noticed. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only the taste of wine and coffee on her lips, the scent of lavender, the warmth of her body pressing against his dot. Leo kissed her jaw, her neck, breathing in the scent of her skin. Elena arched into him, her fingers tracing the line of his spine. "Leo," she whispered against his mouth. "I've noticed you. For a long time. Why didn't you say anything?" he asked, pulling back slightly to look at her. "Because I was afraid," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "Afraid of losing Sam, afraid of what people would say, afraid that you only saw an old woman." "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever known," Leo said fiercely. "Age doesn't matter. Nothing matters but this." He kissed her again, deeper this time. His hands moved under her shirt, touching the warm skin of her back. She shivered, not from cold, but from the intensity of the contact. The storm raged outside, thunder shaking the foundations of the house, but inside, the fire was burning hotter. They were crossing a line, stepping into territory that had no map. They knew the risks. They knew the cost. But in the flickering candlelight, with the rain washing over the roof, neither of them cared. I hope you have subscribed. If not, please take a moment and subscribe. Leo woke to the sound of birds. The storm had passed during the night, leaving the air scrubbed clean and cool. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in the curtains, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. He was alone on the sofa. The blankets were folded neatly at the end. The candles had burned down to nubs of wax. For a moment, he thought it had been a dream. A vivid, intense dream brought on by wine and exhaustion. But then he smelled it. Vanilla and lavender. And on the coffee table, there was a note written on a piece of cream-colored stationery. "Leo, the contractor arrives at 10. I've gone to the market to get supplies. Breakfast is in the oven. Don't worry about anything. There was no mention of the night. No, I love you. No, we need to talk. Just practical instructions." Leo sat up, rubbing his face. His body felt heavy, saturated with the memory of her touch. He walked to the kitchen. There was a casserole dish in the warm oven, filled with scrambled eggs and bacon. It was still hot. He ate standing up, staring out the window at the garden. The rain had beaten down the flowers, but the greenery looked vibrant. What had they done? He loved Sam. Sam was his brother in everything but blood. If Sam found out, Leo couldn't predict the reaction. Anger, betrayal, understanding. And Elena, she was sophisticated, experienced. She knew what she was doing. Was this a moment of weakness for her? A midlife crisis fling? Or was it what she had said last night? Was she tired of being easy? His phone buzzed. A text from Sam. "Hey, stuck in traffic. Might be late. How's the house surviving?" Leo stared at the screen. His thumb hovered over the keyboard. He felt like a traitor. "House is fine," Leo typed. "Roof guy coming later. Don't rush." He put the phone down. He couldn't lie to Sam, not directly. But he couldn't tell the truth yet either. The front door opened around 9:30. Elena walked in, carrying bags of groceries. She wore sunglasses and a sun hat, looking composed and refreshed. If she had spent the night wrestling with her conscience, she didn't show it. "Good morning," she said, setting the bags on the counter. She didn't look at him immediately. She began unpacking milk and eggs. "Morning," Leo said. He walked over to help her. "Do you need help with that?" "No, I'm fine." She turned to him then, removing her sunglasses. Her eyes were clear. "Did you sleep well?" "Eventually," Leo said. After the power came back on. "The generator kicked in around 3 a.m., she said casually. "I heard it start." So she knew he had been awake. She knew he had been lying there, thinking about her. "Elena," Leo started, lowering his voice. "About last night?" She held up a hand. "Not now. The contractor will be here in 20 minutes. We need to be focused." "Okay," Leo said, feeling dismissed but understanding. "Later." She looked at him, and for a second, the mask slipped. He saw the hunger there, the same hunger he felt. "Later," she promised. The day passed in a blur of construction noise and dust. The contractor, a burly man named Rick, fixed the gutters and patched the roof leak. Leo helped carry shingles, keeping his body busy to quiet his mind. Elena moved around the house, directing the work, making phone calls, serving iced tea. She was professional, distant. She treated Leo exactly as she would have treated any other helper. It was maddening. Every time she walked past him, the air crackled. Once, when she handed him a glass of tea, her fingers brushed his palm, and she held the contact for a second longer than necessary. Her eyes flicked up to his, a silent message passing between them. Tonight, Rick left around 4 p.m. Sam texted again. "Stuck in a meeting. Going to grab a hotel near the office. Won't make it back tonight. Sorry again." Leo read the text with a mix of relief and guilt. Relief that he wouldn't have to face Sam yet. Guilt that he was alone with Elena, with no chaperone, no buffer. When the sun began to set, the house was quiet. The work was done for the day. Leo was in the library, shelving books as Elena had requested. It was a massive room, 2 stories high, with a rolling ladder. The smell of old leather was comforting. He heard the door open. He didn't turn around. He heard footsteps on the hardwood floor. Soft, deliberate. "Leave that one," Elena's voice came from behind him. "It goes on the top shelf." Leo turned. She was standing at the base of the ladder. She had changed into a silk robe, dark blue, tied at the waist. Her hair was down, cascading over her shoulders. "I can reach it," Leo said. "I know." She walked closer. "Come down, Leo." He descended the ladder slowly. When his feet hit the floor, she was right there. "Sam isn't coming back tonight," she said. "I know. We are alone. I know." "Does that scare you?" "Yes," Leo admitted. "It terrifies me." "Good," she said. "Fear means it matters." She reached up and untied the belt of her robe. It slipped open slightly, revealing the curve of her collarbone, the lace of her camisole beneath. She wasn't trying to seduce him with flashiness. She was offering him trust. "I don't do this," Elena said softly. "I don't invite men into my home. I don't mix my worlds. But you have always been different." "I'm your son's friend," Leo said, the warning still necessary, still painful. "You are a man who sees me," she corrected. "Sam sees a mother. The world sees a widow. You see Elena." She stepped into him. Leo wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her flesh against him. The silk was cool, but her body was hot. "I see you," Leo whispered. "I've always seen you." He kissed her, and this time there was no storm to hide them. The house was silent. The only sound was their breathing, growing heavier, more ragged. Leo walked her backward until her back pressed against the bookshelves. The books rattled slightly. He kissed her neck, tasting the salt of her skin. Elena's hands were in his hair, pulling, guiding. "Leo," she gasped. "The bedroom." "Not here," He lifted her. She wrapped her legs around his waist, and he carried her out of the library, up the grand staircase. They didn't speak. Words were too clumsy for what was happening between them. In the master bedroom, the curtains were drawn. The room was spacious, filled with antique furniture and soft light from the bedside lamps. Leo lay her down on the bed. For a moment, they just looked at each other. The age gap, the social implications, the risk, it all hung in the air. But it was overshadowed by the sheer magnitude of their attraction. Elena reached out and pulled him down. "No more talking," she whispered, and there was no more talking. There was only touch, only sensation. Leo explored her body with a reverence that bordered on worship. He learned the landscape of her, the scars, the softness, the strength. She was not a girl. She was a woman who knew what she wanted, and she wanted him. When they finally came together, it was with an intensity that left them both breathless. It was a collision of souls, a desperate clinging to something real in a world that often felt fake. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, the silence of the house wrapping around them like a blanket. Leo stroked her hair, watching the rise and fall of her chest. "What happens now?" Leo asked into the darkness. Elena turned her head to look at him. Her eyes were sleepy, satisfied. Now we sleep. Tomorrow. We figure it out. Sam loves us both," Elena said firmly. "He will be angry. He will be confused. But he is not a cruel man. We will tell him. Together. But not yet. Let us have this night. Let us have this secret for a little while longer." Leo kissed her forehead. "Okay, one night." But as he lay there, listening to her breathing even out into sleep, Leo knew it wouldn't be just one night. He was in too deep. He had fallen in love with his best friend's mother, and there was no climbing back out. The next few days settled into a rhythm that felt both domestic and illicit. Sam remained in the city, tied up in the merger negotiations. He called every evening, cheerful and oblivious, asking about the repairs, asking if Leo was eating well. "Yes, Mom is feeding me like a king," Leo would say. Looking across the kitchen table at Elena. Elena would meet his gaze, a small secret smile playing on her lips. She would kick his foot under the table, a subtle touch that sent a jolt of electricity through Leo's leg. During the day, they worked. They painted the trim in the hallway. They cleared out the attic, finding boxes of old photographs, Sam's childhood toys, records from the 70s. It was in the attic. Amidst the dust and memories, that they found a moment of quiet intimacy. Leo was holding a photograph of Elena from 30 years ago. She was standing on this very porch, holding a baby Sam. She looked young, vibrant, but there was a sadness in her eyes even then. "You look happy," Leo said. "I was," Elena said, looking over his shoulder. "But I was also lonely. Richard, Sam's father, he was a good man, but he was never really here. Even when he was in the room, he was somewhere else." Leo put the photo down. He turned to her. "And now?" "Now," she said, stepping into his space, "I feel present." She kissed him right there in the attic, surrounded by the ghosts of the past. It was different from the passion of the first night. This was softer, sweeter. It was the beginning of something deeper than lust. They spent the evenings on the porch again. They drank wine. They talked. Really talked. Elena told him about her life before Sam, about her dreams of being a painter that she had put aside to raise a family. Leo told her about his fears of failure, about the pressure he felt to succeed. "You should paint again," Leo said one night. "I'm too old to start," she dismissed. "You're never too old. I'll buy you the supplies. I'll build you a studio in the shed out back." Elena looked at him, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "You would do that?" "I would do anything for you," Leo said. And he meant it. The words hung in the air. Anything. It was a vow. Elena reached out and took his hand. Leo, be careful. Hearts break easily. Not this one, he said. Not with you. But the outside world was closing in. Sam texted on Thursday. Merger is done. Coming home Friday afternoon. Can't wait to see the place. Leo felt a knot form in his stomach. Friday, they had less than 24 hours. That night, the mood was somber. They knew the clock was ticking. They made love slowly, savoring every touch, trying to memorize the feel of each other. Afterward, lying in the dark, Elena spoke. We have to tell him. I know, Leo said. He needs to hear it from us, not find out from someone else. I'll tell him, Leo said. It's my fault. I pursued you. No, Elena said firmly, turning to face him. It is not your fault. Love is not a crime, Leo. We are not children stealing cookies. We are two adults who found something real. I will stand beside you. She traced the line of his jaw. But you need to be prepared. He might not speak to you for a while. He might hate me. He won't hate you, Leo said. He loves you too much. Love and disappointment are close cousins, she said sadly. Sam's SUV pulled into the driveway at 4 p.m. on Friday. The house looked transformed. The gutters were clean, the roof patched. The hallway painted a fresh cream color. Leo stood on the porch, his hands in his pockets. Elena stood beside him. They were not touching, but their shoulders were aligned. A united front. Sam got out of the car, stretching. He looked tired but happy. Hey, look at this place. You guys are miracles workers. He walked up the steps, grinning. He hugged his mother, then clapped Leo on the back. Seriously, thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. Come inside, Elena said. Let's have a drink. They went into the living room. The atmosphere was thick with tension, though Sam seemed unaware. He talked about the deal, about the bonus he was getting, about taking them all out to dinner. Actually, Leo said, his voice cutting through Sam's chatter. We need to talk. Sam stopped pouring his drink. He looked at Leo, then at his mother. He sensed the shift in the air. The smile faded from his face. What's wrong? Is it the house? Did something else break? No, Leo said. He looked at Elena. She gave a barely perceptible nod. Leo took a deep breath. Sam, something has happened while you were away. Sam's eyes narrowed. Okay, Elena and I. Leo stumbled. The words felt like glass in his throat. We've become involved. Silence. Absolute, crushing silence. Sam looked at Leo. Then he looked at his mother. He waited for the punchline. He waited for them to laugh and say it was a joke. Neither of them laughed. Involved, Sam repeated. The word sounded foreign in his mouth. What does that mean? It means we're together, Elena said. Her voice was steady, strong. We're in love. Sam laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. You're... What, Mom? Leo, this is a joke. This has to be a joke. It's not a joke, Sam, Leo said. Sam dropped the bottle of wine. It shattered on the hardwood floor, red liquid spreading like blood. How long? A week, Leo said. A week? Sam's face turned red. I leave you for a week to help my mother, and you sleep with my mother? It wasn't just sleeping, Elena said sharply. Don't reduce it to that. Don't talk. Sam snapped at her. He pointed a shaking finger at Leo. You, my best friend? Since college. Since forever. How could you do this to me? I didn't plan it, Leo said, stepping forward. It just happened. I care about her, Sam. I care about you. I never wanted to hurt you. Hurt me? Sam laughed bitterly. You've embarrassed me. This is sick, Leo. She's my mom. She is a woman, Leo said, his voice rising. She is not just your mom. She is Elena. She is lonely. She is vibrant. And she makes me feel alive in a way I've never felt before. So what, I'm supposed to be happy for you? Sam shouted. My best friend is dating my mother. What am I supposed to say at Thanksgiving? Pass the gravy, by the way. How's the sex? Sam, stop it, Elena said, her voice commanding. You will not speak to him like that. I'll speak to him however I want. Sam yelled. He looked at his mother, betrayal written all over his face. And you, Dad hasn't even been gone 5 years. Is that what this is? Some midlife crisis? Do not speak to me about your father, Elena said, her voice low and dangerous. You didn't know him like I did. You didn't see the loneliness. You were a child. You are still a child in some ways. I'm leaving, Sam said. He grabbed his keys from the table. Sam, please, Leo pleaded. Don't go like this. Don't follow me, Sam warned. He walked to the door. He stopped and looked back at them. Don't call me. Don't come to the city. I need to not look at you. He slammed the door. The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. Leo stood frozen. Elena walked over to him and put her arm around his waist. He felt her trembling. He'll come around, Leo said, though he didn't believe it. Give him time, Elena whispered. He's hurt. I lost him, Leo said. I lost my best friend. You gained something too, Elena said softly. She turned his face toward her. You gained me. Leo looked into her eyes. He saw the pain there, but also the resolve. She had chosen him. She had chosen this difficult path over the easy one. I know, Leo said. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her tight. I just hope it was worth it. It will be, she promised. We will make it worth it. Outside, the sun began to set over Willow Creek. The house was quiet again. The wine stain on the floor was drying. The bond between the three of them was broken, but a new bond had formed between the two of them. It was fragile, tested by fire, but it was real. Leo knew the road ahead would be hard. There would be gossip. There would be awkward family gatherings. There would be days when Sam wouldn't speak to them, but as he held Elena, feeling the steady beat of her heart against his chest, he knew he couldn't regret it. He had found love in the most unexpected place. He had found it in the home of his best friend, in the arms of a woman who was supposed to be off limits, and he was willing to fight for it. Let's clean this up, Leo said, looking at the broken glass. Together, Elena said. They knelt on the floor side by side, picking up the shards, cleaning the stain. It was a metaphor for what they would have to do with their lives. Clean up the mess, piece together the broken parts, make something new from the wreckage. And as they worked, their hands brushed and they smiled. It was a small smile, tired but hopeful. The story of Leo and Elena was just beginning. The silence left in Sam's wake was heavier than the storm that had battered the house a week prior. It was a physical presence pressing against the windows, settling into the corners of the rooms. For the first 2 days, Leo and Elena moved around each other like ghosts, speaking only in necessities. Pass the salt. The phone is ringing. The rain is starting. Leo slept in the blue guest room, though every night he woke up reaching for the other side of the bed, finding only cold sheets. They had agreed mutually and painfully that having him in her bed while Sam was potentially watching or listening was too risky. They needed to respect the wreckage they had caused, even if they didn't regret the cause. On the third morning, Leo woke up to the smell of coffee. He walked into the kitchen to find Elena standing by the window, watching the rain drip from the eaves. She wore a thick knit sweater that swallowed her hands, her hair pulled back in a loose clip. She looked tired. The vibrant woman who had kissed him against the bookshelves seemed dimmed by the weight of her son's rejection. Leo walked up behind her. He didn't touch her immediately. He just stood close enough that she could feel his warmth. "He hasn't called," she said softly, not turning around. "Give him time," Leo said, repeating the words he had told himself 100 times. "Time doesn't heal everything, Leo. Sometimes it just calcifies the wound." She turned then, her eyes red-rimmed. "Did I make a mistake? Asking you to stay? Asking you to love me?" Leo reached out and took her hands. They were cold. He rubbed them between his palms, trying to transfer his heat to her. "No, never. Loving you is the only thing I've done in the last 5 years that feels right. But look at the cost," she whispered. "Sam won't look at me. My sisters are calling me constantly, leaving voicemails about appropriateness and grief counseling. The neighbors. I saw Mrs. Gable staring at us when we got groceries yesterday." "Let them stare," Leo said fiercely. "Let them talk. Their opinions don't pay the mortgage. Their opinions don't hold you at night." "It's not just them," Elena said, pulling one hand away to touch his cheek. "It's the guilt. I brought him into this world, Leo. I changed his diapers. I taught him to tie his shoes. And now I'm dating his best friend. When I look in the mirror, sometimes I don't recognize the woman looking back." Leo stepped in, closing the gap. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her into his chest. He rested his chin on the top of her head. "You are not just a mother, Elena. You are a woman. You have a right to happiness. Sam is an adult. He loves you, but he doesn't own you. He feels betrayed," she mumbled into his shirt. "I know," Leo said. "And I will spend every day making it up to him. But I won't give you up to fix it. That's not fair to either of us." Elena pulled back slightly to look at him. The vulnerability in her eyes broke his heart. "You're too good for this mess, Leo. You should be with a girl your own age. Someone without baggage. Someone without a son who hates you." "I don't want someone my own age," Leo said, his voice dropping to a growl. "I want you. I want the wisdom in your eyes. I want the way you laugh when you're truly surprised. I want the way you know exactly how I take my coffee without asking. I don't want a girl, Elena. I want a woman." He kissed her then, right there in the kitchen, with the rain streaking the window behind them. It was a kiss of reassurance, of solidity. It wasn't the frantic passion of the first night. It was the steady burn of a fire built to last. When they broke apart, Elena sighed, leaning her forehead against his. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, we stand together." "Together," Leo confirmed. Later that afternoon, the rain stopped. The sky cleared to a brilliant, washed-out blue. Leo went out to the shed behind the house. He had promised her a studio, and he was a man of his word. The shed was old, wooden, and smelled of cedar and motor oil. It needed work. Leo spent the next 6 hours clearing out the junk, sweeping the cobwebs, and washing the windows until the light poured in. He drove into town to buy canvases, easels, paints, brushes, everything she had mentioned wanting years ago but never bought. When Elena came out to check on him around sunset, she stopped in the doorway. The shed was transformed. The walls were wiped clean. A large wooden table stood in the center, covered in fresh white paper. Easels were set up facing the west window, where the light was best. Jars of brushes stood ready. "Leo," she breathed, walking into the space. She ran her hand over the smooth wood of the easel. "You did all this?" "I told you I would," he said, wiping paint thinner from his hands onto a rag. "It's yours. No rules. No expectations. Just paint." Elena turned to him, her eyes wet again. "I don't know if I remember how." "You never forget," Leo said. He walked over to her. Show me. Show you what? Show me what you see. When you look at me, when you look at this house, when you look at the world. Elena picked up a tube of crimson paint. She squeezed a dollop onto the palette. She picked up a brush. She hesitated, then looked at Leo. Sit. Where? Anywhere. Just be still. Leo sat on a stool in the corner. Elena began to paint. She started tentatively, but as the minutes passed, her movements became more fluid. She stopped thinking about technique or perfection. She started thinking about him, the sharp line of his jaw, the warmth of his brown eyes, the way his hands looked, strong and capable. She mixed colors, ochre, burnt sienna, deep blue. She wasn't painting a portrait. She was painting a feeling. Leo watched her. He watched the way her brow furrowed in concentration, the way her tongue peeked out slightly when she mixed a difficult shade. He watched the way the sunset light caught the silver in her hair, turning it into a halo of gold. He stood up quietly and walked over to her. She didn't stop painting. He stood behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, resting his cheek against her shoulder. What do you see? He whispered. I see safety, she said, not looking away from the canvas. I see a storm that finally passed. Leo turned her around. The paintbrush fell from her hand, clattering onto the floor. He didn't care. He lifted her onto the work table, sweeping the jars of water aside. Leo, she gasped, her hands gripping his shoulders. You're beautiful when you create, he said, stepping between her knees. It turns me on more than you know. The studio smelled of turpentine and oil paint, a sharp artistic scent that mixed with their own musk. Leo kissed her, tasting the intensity of her focus. His hands roamed over her sweater, finding the warmth beneath. Here, in the space he had built for her, the guild of the house faded. There was no Sam, no neighbors, no past. There was only the present moment, the smell of paint, and the heat of their bodies. Leo lifted her sweater over her head. Her skin was pale in the dimming light. He kissed the hollow of her throat, moving down to the curve of her breast. Elena arched her back, her fingers tangling in his hair. Make me forget, she whispered urgently. Make me forget everything but this. I will, Leo promised. He made love to her on the work table, surrounded by the colors of her soul. It was raw and uninhibited. Every touch was a statement of ownership, not in a possessive way, but in a devoted way. He was memorizing her. When they reached their peak, it was together, a shared crescendo that left them clinging to each other. Breathless and shaking, afterward, they sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, wrapped in his jacket. Elena rested her head on his shoulder. I haven't felt this alive in 20 years, she said softly. Then we're just getting started, Leo replied, kissing the top of her head. A week later, they decided they couldn't hide forever. Hiding felt like shame, and they refused to be ashamed. We're going to the farmer's market, Leo said on Saturday morning. Together. Elena hesitated, holding a sun hat in her hands. People will talk. Let them, Leo said, taking the hat from her and placing it on her head. He adjusted the brim, his fingers lingering on her cheeks. You're with me. That's all that matters. They drove into town in Leo's car. Willow Creek was a small community. Everyone knew everyone. When they walked into the market square, Leo felt the shift in the atmosphere immediately. Conversations halted. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through grass. That's Elena Hawthorne. Isn't that Sam's friend? How old is he? Poor Sam. Leo kept his hand firmly on the small of Elena's back. He didn't shrink away. He walked with his head high, guiding her toward the flower stall. Good morning, Mrs. Hawthorne, the florist, a woman named Martha who had known Elena for decades, said. Her voice was tight. She looked at Leo, then back at Elena. And Leo. "Morning, Martha," Elena said, her voice steady. "The peonies are lovely this year." "Yes, well, they are." Martha didn't move to pack them. Leo stepped forward. "We'll take 2 bunches, please." He placed the cash on the counter. He didn't wait for change. He took the flowers and handed them to Elena for the table. "Thank you," Elena said. She looked Martha in the eye. "It's good to be out, Martha." The house was getting too quiet. Martha's expression softened just a fraction. She saw the way Leo looked at Elena. She saw the way Elena leaned into him. It wasn't a scandalous fling. It was a partnership. "Enjoy them," Martha said quietly, as they walked away. Leo felt Elena's hand slip into his. She interlaced their fingers, holding on tight. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not letting me hide." They walked through the market, buying bread, cheese, fruit. They acted like any other couple, and slowly the tension in the air began to dissipate. People saw that they weren't looking for approval. They were just living. At the coffee stand, they ran into someone less forgiving. It was Mrs. Gable, the neighbor who lived 2 houses down. She was standing with a group of women sipping lattes. "Elena," Mrs. Gable said, her voice loud enough for the nearby stalls to hear. "I heard Richard hasn't been gone 5 years. Is this appropriate?" The group went silent. Elena stopped walking. Leo felt her stiffen. He prepared to step in to defend her, but Elena squeezed his hand. She wanted to handle this. "Richard has been gone 5 years, Martha," Elena said calmly. "And my personal life is exactly that, personal. But since you asked, yes, I am happy. Leo makes me happy. And I think happiness is something we should all strive for, don't you?" Mrs. Gable flushed pink. "I just thought of Sam." "Sam is a grown man," Elena interrupted, her voice sharpening. "He makes his own choices. I am making mine. If you have concerns about my son, you can speak to him, but do not speak to me about my grief or my love life again. Are we clear?" The silence was absolute. Mrs. Gable nodded stiffly and turned away. Leo let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He looked at Elena with awe. She was fierce. She was protective. She was magnificent. "You were incredible," he said as they walked back to the car. "I'm tired of being the polite widow," Elena said, opening the car door. "I'm done apologizing for existing." Leo pushed her gently against the car before she got in. He kissed her right there in the parking lot, in front of anyone who was watching. It was a kiss of defiance, a kiss of victory. When he pulled away, she was smiling, a real genuine smile. "Let's go home," she said. 2 days after the market incident, a letter arrived. It wasn't in an envelope. It was tucked into the windshield wiper of Leo's car. Leo pulled it out when he went to start the engine. It was folded notebook paper. He recognized Sam's handwriting. "Leo, I'm not ready to talk to you. Maybe not for a long time. But I talked to Dad's brother, Uncle Mike. He told me something I didn't know. He told me that Dad had an affair years ago. Before he died. Mom never told me. She protected me from it. Uncle Mike said Mom deserved happiness. He said she spent 20 years being perfect for everyone else. Maybe she's done with that. I'm not saying I'm okay with this. I'm not. It's weird. It's hard. But I love my mom. And you were my brother before this happened. Don't come to the city. Don't call. But don't leave her alone. She gets lonely in that big house. Just take care of her." Sam Leo read the letter 3 times. He felt a lump in his throat. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance. But it was a bridge. It was a crack in the wall. He walked into the house, finding Elena in the library. She was reading, a glass of wine beside her. She looked up when he entered. "Mail?" she asked, seeing the paper in his hand. From Sam, Leo said. Elena put her book down. Her hands trembled slightly. What did he say? Leo handed her the letter. She read it silently. Her eyes scanned the lines, widening at the mention of her husband's affair. She touched the paper where Sam wrote, "Don't leave her alone." A tear fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. "He knows," she whispered. "About Richard. He knows you deserve happiness," Leo said, kneeling beside her chair. "He still won't talk to us." "He will," Leo said. "This is the first step. He's protecting you, even now. Even when he's angry." Elena folded the letter and pressed it to her chest. She leaned down and kissed Leo. "We have to keep going. We can't stop." "We won't," Leo promised. Summer turned to early autumn. The leaves on the oak trees began to turn gold and crimson. The air grew crisp. Leo had extended his stay at the estate indefinitely. He was working remotely, managing his architecture projects from the dining room table. Their relationship had deepened. The initial fever-pitch passion had settled into a comfortable, enduring warmth. They knew each other's rhythms. Leo knew Elena needed silence in the mornings. Elena knew Leo needed a walk in the woods when he was stressed out. One evening, they were sitting by the fireplace. The first fire of the season was crackling. Elena was sketching in her notebook. Leo was grading some plans for a new community center. "Leo," Elena said, not looking up from her sketch. "Do you ever think about the future? Really think about it?" Leo put his pen down. "All the time. What does it look like?" Leo looked at her. The firelight danced in her eyes. He saw the lines around her mouth, the silver in her hair. He saw the woman who had taught him what love actually was. It wasn't just excitement. It was safety. It was being known. "I see this house," Leo said. "Fixed up. The garden blooming. And I see you. In the studio, painting, and you. I'm wherever you are," Leo said simply. Elena looked up then. She closed her sketchbook. "I'm serious, Leo. I'm 52. I'm not going to get younger. You're 28. You have your whole life. In 10 years, I'll be 62. You'll be 38. In 20 years? In 20 years, I'll still be in love with you," Leo interrupted. "You can't know that." "I do know that," Leo said. He stood up and walked over to her. He took her hands and pulled her to her feet. "Elena, I don't care about the math. I care about the feeling. When I'm with you, I feel complete. When I'm not, I'm waiting." He reached into his pocket. He hadn't planned to do this tonight. He had bought the ring a week ago, hiding it in his toolbox. But the moment felt right. The fire, the quiet, the letter from Sam healing the air around them. He got down on one knee. Elena gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Leo, what are you doing?" "I know it's fast," Leo said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "I know people will say we're crazy. I know Sam might not understand yet. But I know what I want. I want to wake up next to you every day. I want to grow old with you. I want to be the one who holds your hand when we're both 80. He opened the small box. Inside was a simple band, silver with a small sapphire stone. Her birthstone. "Elena Hawthorne," Leo said. "Will you marry me?" Elena stared at the ring. Tears streamed down her face freely now. She looked at Leo, really looked at him. She saw the boy who had come to her house years ago, shy and awkward. She saw the man who had stood up to her neighbors, who had built her a studio, who had loved her when she felt unlovable. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." Leo slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. He stood up and pulled her into a crushing embrace. They stood by the fire, holding each other as the logs crackled and popped. "I love you," Leo said into her hair. I love you, Elena replied. More than I thought I could love anyone. 3 months later, the house was decorated for Christmas. A large tree stood in the foyer, twinkling with white lights. Snow covered the ground outside, muffling the world. The doorbell rang. Leo and Elena exchanged a look. They weren't expecting anyone. Leo went to the door. He opened it. Sam stood there. He was wearing a heavy coat, snow dusting his shoulders. He looked older, tired, but the anger was gone from his eyes. Hey, Sam said. Sam, Leo said. He stepped back. Come in. Sam walked into the foyer. He looked at the tree. He looked at Leo. Then he looked at Elena, who was standing at the bottom of the stairs. Double quotes, Hi, Mom, Sam said. Samuel, Elena said, her voice trembling. She walked down the stairs slowly. Sam didn't move away. When she reached him, he opened his arms. They hugged. It was stiff at first, then tightened. Elena buried her face in his coat. Sam closed his eyes. I'm sorry, Sam mumbled. I was angry, but I missed you. I missed you too, Elena cried. Sam pulled back and looked at her. Then he noticed the ring on her finger. He stared at it. He looked at Leo. You asked her? Sam asked. I did, Leo said. Sam was silent for a long moment. He looked between the two of them. He saw the way Leo stood protectively near Elena. He saw the way Elena looked at Leo with absolute trust. She's happy, Sam said, more to himself than to them. Really happy. I am, Elena confirmed. Sam nodded slowly. He walked over to Leo. He extended his hand. Leo took it. They shook hands, then pulled each other into a hug. It was awkward, heavy with history, but it was real. Don't hurt her, Sam whispered in Leo's ear, or I'll kill you. I know, Leo said. They stepped back. The tension in the house finally, truly broke. Dinner? Sam asked. I'm starving, and I bet Mom's lasagna is still better than any restaurant in the city. It is, Leo said, smiling. Then let's eat, Sam said. They went into the kitchen. The three of them sat around the table. It wasn't perfect. There were still scars. There were still things they wouldn't talk about for a while. But they were together. As they ate, laughing over a story Sam told about work. Leo looked at Elena. She caught his eye under the table and squeezed his knee. She smiled, a secret smile just for him. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the tracks of the past, leaving the world fresh and white. Inside, the fire was warm, the food was good, and love complicated, difficult. Beautiful love had won. Epilogue. 5 years later, the studio was full of light. Canvases lined the walls, vibrant and bold. Elena stood at the easel, painting. Her hair was fully silver now, cut short and stylish. She wore a smock stained with 100 colors. Leo walked in. He looked older too, lines around his eyes from smiling. He walked up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. What are we working on? He asked. Us, Elena said. She stepped back. The canvas showed the house on Willow Creek, but it wasn't realistic. It was impressionistic. The colors were warm golds and deep blues. 2 figures stood on the porch, small but distinct, holding hands. It's beautiful, Leo said. It's us, she corrected. They walked out onto the porch. The swing bench was still there, though they had replaced the cushions. The oak trees were taller. Sam is coming for Thanksgiving, Elena said. He's bringing a girl. Leo raised an eyebrow. Yes, her name is Sarah. She's a lawyer. Very serious. Elena laughed. Reminds me of someone. Hey, Leo protested, smiling. They sat on the swing. Leo put his arm around her. Elena rested her head on his shoulder. Do you ever regret it? Leo asked quietly. The scandal? The wait? Elena looked out at the garden. The flowers were dormant for the winter, but the roots were deep. "No," she said. "Love is worth any price, especially this kind." She turned to him and kissed him. It was still passionate. It was still full of the same fire that had started in the storm 5 years ago. The wind rustled the leaves. The house stood strong, and they sat together, watching the sun set over Willow Creek, knowing that no matter what came next, they would face it together. The engagement ring sat on the nightstand, catching the morning light like a captured star. Leo watched it for a long moment before turning his gaze to Elena. She was still asleep, her breathing slow and rhythmic, her silver hair fanned out across the pillow like a halo. In the quiet of the morning, she looked peaceful, unburdened by the judgments of the world outside these walls. Leo slipped out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake her. He pulled on his robe and walked downstairs to the kitchen. The house was silent, save for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. He put the kettle on and sat at the table, opening his laptop. He had emails from the city, clients waiting for updates on the community center project. But his mind wasn't on blueprints. It was on the future. Planning a wedding at 28 was one thing. Planning a wedding at 28 to a woman of 52 in the town where everyone knew your history was another. They had decided on a small ceremony. No big church, no sprawling guest list that would whisper and stare. Just the estate, the garden, and the people who truly mattered. Elena came down an hour later, wrapped in her silk robe, the sapphire ring glinting on her finger. She poured herself coffee and sat opposite him. "You're working?" she noted, though her eyes were soft. "Thinking," Leo corrected. "About the garden. The lilacs will be in bloom in June. That's only 3 months away." "June," Elena repeated, testing the word. "It feels soon. Is that too soon?" Leo asked, reaching across the table to take her hand. "We can wait. A year, 5 years. I'm not going anywhere." Elena turned her hand over, interlacing her fingers with his. Her skin was warm. "No, not too soon. I don't want to wait. I've waited enough in my life." She smiled, a shy expression that made her look decades younger. "I want to be your wife, Leo." "Then June it is," Leo said. The weeks that followed were a blur of decisions. They walked the grounds of the estate, deciding where the altar should stand. They chose the spot beneath the oldest oak tree, where the roots formed a natural archway. Elena wanted wildflowers, not arranged bouquets. She wanted the music to be live, a cello and a violin. Nothing synthesized. One afternoon, they drove into the city to look at suits for Leo. Elena insisted on coming, though she claimed she was just there to offer opinions. In the boutique, surrounded by racks of navy and charcoal, Leo felt a sudden pang of insecurity. "Does this look right?" he asked, stepping out of the changing room in a tailored black suit. He looked at his reflection. He looked older in the suit, more serious. Elena walked around him, her hand smoothing the lapels. Her touch was deliberate. "You look handsome," she said softly. "You look like a man who knows what he wants." She stopped in front of him, her eyes searching his. "Are you sure, Leo? Really sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. The world will have a label for us. The couple with the age gap, the son's friend who married the mother, they will talk forever." Leo took her face in his hands. "Let them talk. They don't know what it's like to wake up next to you. They don't know how you laugh when you think no one is listening. They don't know you." "I just want you to be sure," she whispered. "I have never been more sure of anything in my life," Leo said. "You are my home, Elena, not this house, you." He kissed her there in the fitting room, ignoring the salesman hovering nearby. It was a promise, sealed in the quiet space between the racks of clothes. When they returned to Willow Creek, Sam was waiting on the porch. He had been coming around more frequently since the letter, though visits were still cautious. He stood up as they pulled into the driveway. "Hey," Sam said, watching them get out of the car. He noticed the way Leo's hand lingered on Elena's lower back. He noticed the ring. "Sam," Elena said, "we were just in the city. Suit shopping?" Sam nodded. "June, right?" "June," Leo confirmed. Sam kicked at a loose stone on the porch. I wanted to ask about the toast. At the reception, Elena's hand went to her throat. "You want to give a toast?" "Yeah," Sam said, looking up. His eyes were clear. "I was angry. I was hurt, but I've watched you too. And I've never seen Mom smile like this. Not even when Dad was alive, not really." He looked at Leo. "And you're still my best friend. Even if this is weird." "It is weird," Leo admitted with a small smile. "But it's good weird," Sam said. "So, can I give a toast?" Elena stepped forward and pulled her son into a hug. She held him tight, longer than usual. "I would be honored, Samuel." 2 weeks before the wedding, tension spiked. It wasn't between Leo and Elena, but from the outside. A local blog had caught wind of the engagement. Willow Creek widow weds son's friend. The headline was sensational. Cruel. Leo found the article on his phone while having coffee. He felt a surge of protective anger. He wanted to drive into town and confront anyone. But there was no one specific to confront. It was the zeitgeist. Elena found him staring at the screen. She read the headline over his shoulder. She didn't flinch. "Delete it," she said calmly. "They're calling you a cougar," Leo said, his voice tight. "They're calling me a gold digger." "Let them," Elena said, taking the phone from his hand and setting it face down on the table. "Words are wind, Leo. They can't touch what we have." "That night, I want to host a dinner," Elena announced. "Just us, Sam, his new girlfriend Sarah, us. I want to fill this house with love before the world tries to inject its noise." The dinner was held on a Friday night. Sarah, Sam's girlfriend, was indeed serious, sharp, and intelligent. She was a corporate lawyer, much like Sam. At first, the conversation was polite, stilted. Sarah kept glancing at Elena, clearly aware of the controversy, but Elena was a master hostess. She poured wine. She told stories about Sam's childhood that embarrassed him but made Sarah laugh. She asked Sarah about her work, listening with genuine interest. Leo watched them. He saw the way Elena put people at ease. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was just being herself. Later, after the main course, Sam and Leo stepped out onto the porch for air. The night was cool, the stars bright above the tree line. "Sarah likes her," Sam said, lighting a cigarette, a habit he'd picked up during the merger stress. "Your mom?" Leo asked. "Yeah," she said. "Elena is formidable, in a good way." Sam took a drag. She said most people would have crumbled under the pressure of that blog post. "Your mom doesn't crumble," Leo said. "No, she doesn't." Sam looked at Leo. I was worried about the age thing, about, when she gets older. Who will take care of who?" Leo leaned against the railing. "I don't see it that way. We take care of each other now, today. That's all we have. It's just, life is long, Leo." "Life is short," Leo corrected. "That's why I'm not wasting any more of it." Sam nodded slowly. He crushed the cigarette out. "I'm happy for you, man. Really. Thanks, Sam." They went back inside. The living room was warm, filled with the sound of Sarah and Elena talking about art. Elena looked up when Leo entered, and her eyes lit up. In that moment, Leo knew. The blog posts, the neighbors, the gossip, it was all dust. This warmth was real. June arrived with a heat wave, but the day of the wedding broke cool and overcast. The sky was a soft pearl gray, perfect for photography. The garden was alive with the scent of lilacs and wet earth. Leo stood beneath the oak tree, adjusting his cufflinks. His hands were shaking. Sam stood beside him as his best man. "Breathe," Sam said. "You look like you're about to jump out of a plane." "Feels like it," Leo admitted. The music started. A cello began to play, a deep, resonant note that vibrated in Leo's chest. It was canon in D, but slowed down, made heavier, more significant. The guests stood. There were only 30 of them. Close family, old friends who hadn't judged. Sam and Sarah. Then she appeared. Elena walked down the aisle of the grass path. She wasn't wearing a traditional white gown. She wore a dress of champagne silk, simple and elegant, with a lace shawl draped over her shoulders. Her hair was up, adorned with small white flowers that matched the lilacs. She didn't walk with the tentative steps of a nervous bride. She walked with purpose. Leo felt the air leave his lungs. She was breathtaking, not because she was young, but because she was radiant. She carried her age like a crown. When she reached the altar, she took Leo's hands. Her palms were steady. "You look," Leo whispered, "like everything." "And you," she whispered back, "look like my future." The officiant was an old friend of Elena's father, a man who had known her since she was a girl. He spoke briefly about love being a choice, not just a feeling. Then it was time for the vows. Leo went first. "Elena," he said, his voice cracking slightly, "I promise to protect you, but I realize now you protect me. You protect my heart. You protect my peace. I vow to stand beside you when the world is loud. I vow to listen when you're quiet. I vow to love every line on your face because they are the map of where you've been, and I want to go there with you." Elena wiped a tear from her cheek. "Leo, you came into my life when I thought the story was over. You taught me that the next chapter can be the best one. I vow to be your partner. I vow to never take your youth for granted, but to match your energy with my experience. I vow to love you until my last breath." They exchanged rings. Simple bands. When Leo slid the ring onto her finger, the crowd seemed to exhale. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said. "You may kiss the bride." Leo kissed her. It wasn't a peck. It was a deep, lingering kiss that spoke of the nights in the library, the mornings in the kitchen, the storms weathered together. When they pulled apart, the guests applauded, but the sound seemed distant. All Leo could see was Elena. The reception was held on the lawn. Long tables were set up with candles and wildflowers. They danced their first dance to a jazz standard, "The Way You Look Tonight." "You know the irony of this song," Elena murmured as they swayed. "Which part?" "Someday when I'm awfully low." She smiled. "You never let me get low, Leo." "We're a team," he said, spinning her gently. Sam gave his toast later. He stood up, glass in hand, looking nervous. "I never thought I'd be standing here," he began. "I thought I knew how my life was supposed to look, but life doesn't care about our plans. It cares about truth. And the truth is, my mother is happy, and my best friend is happy, and if their happiness looks a little different than everyone else's, then maybe everyone else is looking at it wrong." He raised his glass. "To Leo and Elena, to the unconventional." "To Leo and Elena," the guest says CHORUST. Leo looked around the table. He saw acceptance. He saw love. The shadow of the scandal had lifted, burned away by the sheer force of their commitment. Marriage, they quickly learned, was not a fairy tale ending. It was work. 6 months into the marriage, Leo was offered a partnership at his firm. It required him to be in the city 4 days a week. The estate was 2 hours away. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they had shared lasagna years ago. The air was tense. "You should take it," Elena said. She was grading papers. She had started teaching an art class at the community college. "It means leaving you here alone," Leo said. "Again, I am not a child, Leo. I can be alone. But we just got married. I don't want to start our life apart. And I don't want you to resent me for holding you back," Elena countered. She put her pen down. "This is the reality of us. You are in your prime career years. I am semi-retired. If you stay here for me, you will look at me one day and wonder what you gave up." "I won't," Leo insisted. "You might. And I couldn't live with that." She reached across the table. "We make it work. You go to the city. I stay here. We meet in the middle. Or I come to the city during the week. The city apartment is small. I don't need space. I need you." They compromised. Leo took the partnership. He stayed in the city Tuesday through Thursday. Elena stayed at the estate, working on her art, managing the property. They spent every weekend together at Willow Creek. It was hard. There were nights when Leo drove home exhausted, only to find Elena asleep. There were mornings when Elena woke up alone, the silence of the house pressing in on her. One Thursday night, Leo came home late. The house was dark. He found Elena in the studio. She was painting, but the canvas was dark, swirling with blacks and grays. "Hey," he said softly. She didn't turn. "You're late. Meeting ran over." "It's always something," she said. Her voice was tight. Leo walked over and turned her around. She looked tired. The stress of the week was etched into her face. "I hate this," Leo said. "I hate being away from you." "Then stop," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "Just stop. Quit the job. Come home. I can't just quit. It's our future, is it?" Elena pulled away. "What is the future if we miss the present? I married you to be with you, Leo, not to be a weekend wife." Leo felt a crack in his chest. This was the challenge Sam had warned him about. The logistics of life, the aging, the career. "Give me a month," Leo said. "I'll talk to the partners. I'll see if I can remote work more. I'll fix this. A month is a long time," she whispered. "I know." Leo spent the next month negotiating. He leveraged his success on the community center project. He demanded flexibility. It was risky. He could lose the partnership. He could lose the status, but he remembered the vow. "I vow to stand beside you, at the end of the month." He walked into the kitchen. Elena was making tea. "I did it," Leo said. 3 days in the city, 2 days here. Full remote on Fridays. Elena turned slowly. "They agreed?" They agreed. She dropped the towel she was holding. She walked into his arms and buried her face in his chest. "I was so afraid," she confessed. "Afraid that the distance would kill us." "Nothing kills us," Leo said, holding her tight. "Not distance. Not time. Not people." They stood there for a long time, the kettle whistling unnoticed in the background. They had passed the test. They had chosen each other over convenience. 10 years later, the house on Willow Creek had changed. The paint was a fresh white now. The garden was overgrown in a deliberate, wild way, filled with sculptures Elena had made herself. Leo was 38. He had gray at his temples. He walked with a slight limp from an old skiing injury, but his eyes were as bright as ever. Elena was 62. Her hair was fully white, cut in a sharp bob. Her hands were stained with clay and paint. She moved slower now, but her presence was as commanding as ever. They sat on the porch swing. It was autumn again. The leaves were falling, carpeting the ground, and Sam was inside with his family. He had married Sarah 3 years prior. They had a toddler, a boy named Richard, after Elena's late husband. It was a gesture of healing, of closing the circle. Leo watched Elena watching the leaves. She held a cup of tea in both hands, Petty for your thoughts? Leo asked. Elena smiled. I was thinking about that storm. The first night, the night the power went out. Yes, when we kissed in the dark. She turned to him. I was so scared. I thought I was ruining everything. You saved everything, Leo said. Do you ever wonder? She asked. About the path not taken? If you had married someone your own age? If I had stayed alone? Leo took her hand. He traced the veins on the back of her hand, the map of her life. No, I don't wonder. Because this, us, it's the only thing that makes sense. He stood up and extended his hand. Dance with me, here, on the porch. There's no music. We don't need music. Leo pulled her up. She laughed, a sound that was slightly raspy but full of joy. He held her close, swaying gently to the rhythm of the wind and the trees. They were older now. The passion had mellowed into a deep, abiding devotion. They knew each other's pains, each other's fears. They had navigated the scandal, the distance, the aging, the family dynamics. Leo, Elena said, resting her head on his shoulder. Yeah? Thank you. For seeing me. I always will, Leo promised Dot inside the house. The laughter of their grandson echoed through the open windows. The sound mingled with the rustling leaves. The house was no longer a place of loneliness or memory. It was a place of life. Leo kissed the top of Elena's head. He knew that one day the house would be quiet again. One day, one of them would be gone. But until then, every second was a gift. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the porch. The air grew cold, but they didn't go inside. They stayed in the swing, wrapped in a blanket together, watching the first star appear in the twilight. The story of the friend and the mother had become the story of the husband and the wife. The labels had faded. The gossip had died. All that remained was the truth. Love, they had learned, was not about age. It was not about timing. It was about recognition. It was about finding the one soul that mirrors your own, no matter where or when you find them. And as the night fell over Willow Creek, Leo and Elena sat in the silence, holding hands, knowing that they had won the only prize that mattered. They had found each other. If you want to listen to more romantic stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We work really hard to bring these stories to you, so your likes truly matter. Feel free to share your own stories in the comments below. We look forward to that.